Will 2019 be the year that we see Horizon Zero Dawn 2, or whatever it will be called? Horizon New Dawn, or after Far Cry New Dawn, are they going to switch names? Anyway, it's still my most anticipated game at the moment, even if we haven't seen anything about it yet. Just the promise of a new look into this beautiful created world with new robot dinosaurs to fight is already enough. And while Guerrilla Games is super secretive about their next project, or likely projects, as we discussed in a previous Horizon Zero Dawn 2 video with Simon LaRouche, who previously worked at the Amsterdam studio, then went to Ubisoft Montreal for 8 years to work on Rainbow Six Siege and Watch Dogs 2, did some online things at Eidos Montreal on a secret game as well. Anyway, he is back now at Guerrilla Games as a game director on a secret game. While the game director of Horizon Zero Dawn and Killzone 3 and 2 is also still a game director over there at Guerrilla Games. So interesting things going on in Amsterdam, almost across the street for me. When I go to Central Station, I always see the big logo like in front of their new building. Anyway, let's talk about the recent developments that boast very well for the next Horizon game. If you enjoyed that, then a like would be super appreciated, and let's go. Let's start with something very interesting, because over on Twitter of the studio art director Jan Bart Verbeek, we got this tweet saying, "We have the awesome Glenn McIntosh, animation director for the last two Jurassic World movies, visit Guerrilla Games for a couple of days of lectures." Very inspiring to see all the great work that went into their non-robot dinosaurs. I mean, one of the best parts about Horizon Zero Dawn was the movement and the behavior of these incredible robots, and it seems like the sequel will take it to the next level, with them now learning new ways to perfect that from someone who worked on animating dinosaurs in the big Jurassic World movies. Very promising indeed, and this reminded me of a very cool tweet from more than a year ago where the lead robot and combat designer posted a photo of new dinosaur books, likely for inspiration for the next Horizon, because this was posted just after the launch of the first and final DLC, The Frozen Wilds. I can't wait to see what they come up with for this next game, and how maybe even familiar robots will be improved in this sequel, like the Thunderjaw, new moves and stuff like that. Count me in for sure, because again, their behavior was already really impressive, so I'm curious to see what they will be able to do in the next game. We got more good news thanks to new recruits that joined Guerrilla Games, like Taylor Wright, who worked at Rockstar, Blizzard and EA before joining the Amsterdam studio, and Darren, who worked at Ubisoft Toronto and was a lead animator at Remedy Games, known of course for Alan Wake and Quantum Break. And those are just two new people that joined Guerrilla Games recently, but way more people started to work there over the last year, because they have been recruiting super aggressively. It's actually dying down a little bit right now with only 11 job openings, while before that it was like way more. But yeah, the question still remains, are they working on a PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, or a new game that will release on both? Thanks to some recent news and rumors that I want to discuss in a second, I think that Horizon 2 on the PS4 is more likely again. 8 months ago I shared my theory on why I think it makes sense for this game to be released on both platforms. In short, Horizon 2 would like really benefit from a PlayStation 4 release to grow the overall franchise. It has a ton of potential outside of games as well. I mean, it already has a ton of merchandise and we only have one game in the series. Releasing it only on the PlayStation 5 with just a few million people that own that system around that time will hurt the growth potential. But yeah, on the other hand, you have Sony skipping E3 2019, implying that they likely have no big games to announce, and the fact that they still have 5 big PS4 games that need to come out make me less optimistic about a PS4 release. Counting Days Gone and Dreams from Media Molecule as well to those big games. Because yes, Dreams looks actually really good after that beta that just happened. This is footage of that game. User L Wix, and I hope I pronounced it right, 729, remade PT in this PS4 game. Insane for sure. And let's not forget Ghost of Tsushima, fingers crossed for a September 2019 release, like Spider-Man did last year. I can see it happen. The Last of Us Part 2 needs to come out still, and of course Death Stranding. More on that in relation to Guerrilla Games in a second in this video, by the way. Anyway, my point is that Sony still has a ton of PlayStation 4 games that need to come out, and they need to sell the PlayStation 5 as well, and having Horizon 2 as an exclusive to move units would of course be huge. Well, now we got the news from analyst and industry insider Daniel Ahmed, taking it to Reset Era with some interesting things regarding the PlayStation 5 that he had heard. And yes, yes, we can trust this guy since he teased a Fallout announcement at the Bethesda E3 2018 show before they started teasing it, saying that people will fall out of their seats. Clever one. And also that PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds would come to the PlayStation 4 in December, and well, we all know that that came true. Now he says that 2019 will be another solid year for the PlayStation platform due to the large install base. PS4 now almost has 100 million units sold. Pretty insane. He then continues that we get some pretty cool games from third-party developers. First party with the lineup of the first half of 2019 already set. We of course know that Days Gone, Concrete Genie and likely Dreams will release in the first half of 2019. But the second half is still in flux. And this is where it gets interesting in regards to Horizon Zero Dawn 2, because he says that Sony also has a couple of unannounced games, already existing IP, with the PS4 in mind. But I'm conscious that there have been discussions around making them cross or next-gen titles. In general, most of the focus for Sony first party is on the PlayStation 5 right now. It's still early to talk about next-gen, but I imagine that we will hear some whispers coming out of GDC that will start on March 18th. So yes, a couple of unannounced games, already existing IP with the PS4 in mind, and there are already discussions of making them cross-gen or next-gen only titles. I mean, a very high chance that he's referring to Horizon Zero Dawn 2 here, right? Because there are not a lot of other Sony first-party studios that have been silent for a while and that we don't know what they are working on. Only Polyphony Digital, the Gran Turismo studio maybe, and Japan studio always has multiple games in development. Knack 3, anyone? No, I don't think they're working on Knack 3. Anyway, Guerrilla Games perfectly fits this description, and we're now coming up on the 2nd anniversary of Horizon Zero Dawn. So Guerrilla Games has been hard at work on this sequel for a very long time now, with the PlayStation 5 likely launching at the end of 2020. You would think that they started working on this game with the PlayStation 4 in mind, right? We also got a new GDC poll that asks developers if they are developing their next game for upcoming unannounced game platforms or existing platforms. And in that poll, only 2% of these 4,000 developers that took part is working exclusively on a game for an unannounced platform. So exclusively for the PlayStation 5 or next Xbox, with 16% saying that they are working on a game for both the existing and the upcoming unannounced platforms. 37 did not know yet, but I still think that this really shows that it's super rare to be working on a PlayStation 5 exclusive at this stage. And that it's more likely that Guerrilla Games falls under the existing and upcoming unannounced platforms category. Of course, we don't know if someone from Guerrilla Games responded to this survey, although they did have a big presence at the Game Developers Conference last year, so could totally be the case for sure. And there's really not much else to say about this, only then to look at the sort of evidence we got here, pointing at a higher chance for this game coming out on both the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5 than only on the PlayStation 5. On the other hand, I think that God of War 2 from Sony Santa Monica will of course be a PlayStation 5 exclusive, because by the time they finish that game, the PlayStation 4 is already dead, so 2021 or likely 2022. While in 2020, Horizon Zero Dawn 2 should be in development for more than 3 years, so you would think that that's the perfect time to release that game. So then the reveal in 2019 makes a lot of sense, right? Jeroen Roding, the community manager at Guerrilla Games, got new Guerrilla Games t-shirts recently with a 2019 label. I mean, you would think that getting a new shirt means that you have to show it off somewhere as well, at some sort of convention, right? I mean, no need for branded shirts if the plan is to hide in your office for the full year without showing anything new. Okay, that is totally a possibility, but totally less likely, right? And speaking of offices, Guerrilla Games is of course moving to a way bigger 7,300 square meters building, and they recently visited that with Kojima, who came to show off Death Stranding as well. You might have seen this picture already of many Guerrilla Games developers being impressed by the first 2 hours of Death Stranding. Death Stranding is of course running on the Decima engine from Guerrilla Games, so not weird that he came to show off what he has been working on. I'm more curious actually if Herman and the gang showed off what they have been working on to Kojima. You would think so, right? There are no pictures of Kojima like looking at a screen while Matthijs de Jong is playing something. No, sadly that is not the case. So let's hope they show something to everyone this year, because all the small things and the teases we see on social media are super promising. But to be fair, after the first game, I'm totally convinced that Guerrilla Games can deliver an even deeper and more impressive title than they did in 2017. So fingers crossed for a new trailer or teaser this year, and a good look at that new Guerrilla Games t-shirt. Okay, mostly the trailer, where we see Aloy jumping off a mountain onto a flying mount, likely a Stormbird, flying off in the distance, and then the title Horizon New Dawn, Horizon Zero Dawn 2, Horizon Forbidden West. Just my dream trailer that I just keep repeating, so I hope it becomes a reality one day. But yeah, we'll keep stalking these Guerrilla Games developers and keep my eye out for everything regarding Horizon Zero Dawn 2. So totally subscribe to miss nothing if you haven't already. Like the video to support the channel. Check out my recent video on other big games that I think we will see in 2019 for the first time, but are not announced at this point. And I will of course speak to you next time. Goodbye!